Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to create an editor window in Unity. Let's start by creating a new project. Editor windows are usually used by asset developers, but even if you're not an asset developer, you can still use editor windows to extend the capability of Unity existing tools or create your own tool to ease the process of completing your project. Let's take a look at rendering and lighting settings. This is an example of Unity editor window. You can see that there is tabs here, there are fields, drop-down lists and sliders, along with a lot of other things. So let's go ahead and create your own editor window. To start, I'm going to create a folder, name it editor. And in this editor folder, I'm going to create a new script and name it editor window test. Now let's open this script. Okay, let's clean this up a little bit. Now the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna say using Unity editor. So we're going to change mono behavior to editor window. Now we're going to create a new static method. Now in order to create the menu, we're going to create a variable of the editor window test type. I'm gonna name it just window, and this is equals to get window, and the type of course is editor window test, and we need to choose a title for our window. So we're gonna open a parenthesis, and here we're going to write the title of our window, test title. Now we need to create a menu for our window. To do that, here on top of the method, we're going to say menu item, and we're going to choose a path for our menu. So whenever we want to create a submenu, we're going to use slash for that purpose. Okay, let's go back to editor and see the results. As you can see, a menu has been created for us. Here is the submenu, and this is the item. When we click on this, it's going to create a window for us. So we can move around the window, we can even dock it whenever we want. And as you can see, we can change the size of our window. We can even maximize it and minimize it, and we can close it using this button here. We can even use a specific size for our window, so users could not change the size of our windows. So in order to do that, let's create two variables. And now here in the create menu, we're going to set the maximum and minimum size of our window. Now if we go to our menu, submenu and item test, when we create the window, we will not be able to change the size. Even if we maximize it, it still stays the same size. Now let's go and check out the documentation for the editor window. As you see, there's an example here. There are static properties, which you can see minimum size and maximum size here. There are also other properties. You can check them out and read about them. There are public methods and other kind of methods you could use in your editor window. Now, in order to show some layouts on your window, we need to create editor GUI layouts. Here in the documentation, you can see every kind of layout that you could create. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go through all of them, but I will show you how to use a few basic things. Let's start by text field. As you can see, this is how the text field looks like, and there is also an example on how to create a text field. So let's go ahead and create a text field here. So in order to create a layout, you need to use onGUI method. So now we can create our text field. First, we're going to define a string variable to hold the value of our text field. Now here in the onGUI, we're going to assign the value of this variable to whatever input that user puts in our text field. To create a text field, we say editor GUI layout dot text field. Now we're going to choose a label for that, and then we will choose the text which be placed in the text field. To do that, we're just going to use the text field value. Now let's go ahead and check out the result. A text field has been created for us and we can input some string. Here, as you can see, there are other layouts, and let's go ahead and check toggle as well. So let's go ahead and create a toggle too, and here let's create a variable, a boolean variable. And in order to create the toggle, we're going to do exactly the same thing we did for the text field. Let's actually copy this. And instead, I'm just going to say toggle value. And here, instead of text field, I use toggle. This is the label of our toggle, and this is the value which is going to be set for the toggle. As you can see, we now have a toggle that we could check and uncheck. Now let's go and try another layout. Int field here is also like the text field, but the difference is it's going to get an integer instead of a string. Let's create an int field. For that, we're going to create a variable, and the creation of this layout is exactly like the others. So let's just copy this and say int field value, and here we're going to say int field, and here also int field value. So if we go and check out the result, we'll see that there is a field here which only accepts integer. If you try to put in a string in it, it's not going to accept that. Let's try to make things interesting by creating an enum. So in order to create a drop-down of our enum values, we're going to use an enum pop-up. Here it is in the documentation. Let's take a look. There's an example here we could check out later, but let's go ahead and actually create an enum variable. So here on the onGUI, we're going to say test enum value equals to editor GUI layout, and we're going to use enum popup. It's going to take a label, and it's also going to get a value which we're going to use the test enum value. As you can see, it's giving us an error because it's returning a system enum, but we are assigning a test enum instead of system enum. In order to solve that problem, we can easily cast this system enum to be a test enum. And now let's go ahead and check the results. As you can see, there's a drop down here which you could use to choose an option from the options that have been provided for you. You can also assign objects using object field. This is the documentation for the object field. And let's go ahead and try something. Let's say you want the user to be able to assign a game object to your editor window. So in order to do that, we're going to create a game object variable. And now here in the onGUI method, we're going to create an object field. First, we're going to assign the label of our object field. Second, we're going to assign the variable, which is the game object value. Now we're going to assign type of our object, which is the type of game object. And at the end, we're going to assign true or false. This true or false value determines whether you're allowed to assign objects from scene or not. And here we're going to cast this as a game object. Let's go ahead and check out the result. As you can see, there is an object field. We can assign game objects. We can also create buttons, so when user clicks on them, something happens. Let's go ahead and create a button here. So to create a button, we're not going to use editor GUI layout. We're just going to use GUI layout. And we're also going to put it in an if statement. So whenever this statement is true, it means that the button has been clicked. So we're going to use GUI layout button, and this is the caption for our button. Let's go ahead and check out the result of our code. As you can see, there is a button here that we could click. You can also put some space between your layouts by easily going to your code and here using editor GUI layout.space. Let's just copy this. And I'm going to put this between every single GUI layout. We can also write a debug.log to get notified whenever we click our button. As you can see, there is some space between our layouts here, and whenever we click the test button, here it is, there is a log that says button clicked. One more thing that you might find useful is the option to close the window. Let's actually write the close here, so whenever we click the button, it's just going to close our window. When you click on the button, the window is going to close. You can visit the documentation for more information about editor GUI layouts and also editor window. There are many other editor GUI layouts that you could check out for yourself. If you have any questions about any of them, you could ask me in the comments or send me an email. I will respond to you as soon as possible. So this is how you create an editor window. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and thank you for watching.